You're here for Season 7 of the Whole Horse Podcast, now at 110 episodes and counting. I'm your host, Alexa Linton, coming to you from Vancouver Island in Canada. I can't wait to continue to share thought-provoking, edge-pushing, geeky, and often challenging conversations with horse professionals from all areas of our industry who are working to make horses' lives better. This season, you can look forward to more on the specifics of creating enriching, healthy horse spaces, an area I'm particularly passionate about. I'm so excited that you're here listening in, meeting great horsey humans, and hopefully learning a new thing or two about horses and yourself. Let's get started. Before we begin this episode, I wanted to share some news that is bittersweet. I have, through my sense of intuition and just watching how the winds are blowing, it's feeling like it's going to be the final year for the Whole Horse Apprenticeship this year, which is now in its 9th year. So this is a big deal. And I wanted to make sure that anyone out there who had been thinking about this program in its current form, so 6 months, we have 24 guest instructors, 4 online courses, and it's really an immersion into equine well-being and horsekeeping. If this is something that's been calling to you, I don't want you to miss out. So definitely head on over to the website. The webpage for the course is www.alexalinton.ca/whole-horse-apprenticeship and check it out, and hopefully you can join us. And if you need a payment plan, there is a 3-month payment plan, and I'm also open to other options if it's challenging to join and accessibility is an issue. So just reach out and we'll see what we can do. I hope I see you there. We start on September 15th and the deadline for registration is September 10th. Okay, now on to the episode. Enjoy. Hi everyone and welcome back. We're still in the most amazing season 7 and I'm here today with a returning guest who I've been following along on her journey for the last few years and just so inspired and also feeling, really mentored, I suppose, by the work that this person is doing. So without further ado, I present Lucie Klassen back on the podcast. Welcome back, Lucie.
Thank you. That was, I don't remember, how many years ago was that?
It's been a few because we're in season 7 and I think you were in season 1. So
I looked at the pictures actually. It was 2016 and 17 that I was in Canada that we met. Yep. I don't know which. And I think we met also in Australia in Margaret River one day.
That's
we were both
true.
There.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So It's been a minute and you've been on quite a journey. I think we've both been on massive journeys since that time. And, I think it's safe to say that both of our focuses have shifted with respect to horses and life in general. And I want to get into today, Lucie, some of the edges you're walking right now, because I think Lucie has a new book coming out. She sent it to me, which I felt very, very privileged to see sort of a pre-copy of her book, Wired for Connection. And this book is all about the polyvagal theory and how it applies to horses and humans. Can you share a little bit about that process, Lucie, of maybe coming to the space of like, I need to write this book, and then what that's been like for you to kind of move through the book writing process? Like, I know it's a birth unto itself, right? It's quite a thing. Yeah.
I never really was like, I'm going to write a book. It's kind of an organic process, how it all worked. And I think it started in 2020, which was a tough year for a lot of people, for many reasons. And that year, I went actually into, I dare to say it now, like I went into a depression. And I was even hospitalized. And that year had some really big life events, like my brother took his life also in that year. So I started to dive really deep into trauma. And it started a process of like unfeeling stuff that had been stuck in my body also. So I think it started in that year. And then in 2021, I get this new horse, Jajão. Now, he has a traumatic background as well. He was trained for bullfighting in Portugal. So he had scars on his body from the spurs. He had a wound in his mouth. And I think like a friend of mine called me, like I have this horse and I'm looking for a good home for him and somebody that understands like groundwork and connection. So she said, I don't want him to get into the competition world because he's kind of a good horse. And when I saw him for the first time, it's like I instantly recognized his high alert status, because what I realized is that for most of my adult life, I'd been in this high alert state. Like my nervous system was hyper alert. The only thing is I never really realized that. I thought it was normal, but I was always on the go. I was always da-da, 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 and go here, go there. And I think it's a very thin line, maybe a lot of people will recognize this, between being enthusiastic. I'm a very enthusiastic and engaged, and I love a lot of stuff. But there's a thin line between that and going into a hyper arousal where I basically lost the connection with the people around me. I was like, ah, ah, ah. And then when I had this, like nobody can sustain that for forever. So at some point, my body went into complete shutdown. So then learning about this polyvagal theory and the window of tolerance, now I recognize like being from hyper arousal, which is like on the top side of the sympathetic nervous system, being in a not safe environment, or not feeling safe. And then the other end, the hypo arousal, which is the dorsal shutdown state.
Oh yeah.
I've been in both.
Me too. It's wild.
You know? Realizing that and getting names for it, and now starting to recognize when I go into either direction early enough so that I can self-regulate, coming back into the green zone, the ventral vagal state, or sympathetic and dorsal, where it is still safe, because that's also okay. Now, with my horse Jajão, I totally recognize the same thing. He would go into a corner, put his head in the corner, and like be there motionless.
Yes.
So then I go like, he's now in dorsal shutdown. Then I gently try to move him out of the corner. And then he either ran away or he like kind of attacked me.
Yeah.
So he went from dorsal shutdown to sympathetic high alert. And I go, this is so interesting. What have I learned about this? The number one thing of coming back into the green zone is having control over your own welfare. Meaning, with humans, it's like you shouldn't tell a person who's depressed that they should go for a walk. They know that as well. You should gently take them for a walk.
Yeah.
And that's what you do with a horse that is in shutdown as well. You gently invite them to move because they need to get out of that immobilized state. So now I start to translate everything. Now, one of those first sessions, a friend of mine was filming. And when he was doing that behavior, she said, like, shall I stop filming? And I'm like, no, continue. So we have these early videos of him going through all the states of the nervous system. At that time, I had no idea what I was going to do with it. Yeah. So I started deep diving into trauma, how to apply it to horses. I studied with Dr. Stephen Peters and Sarah Schlote for their first season. And I think that was 2022. Of course, I've been doing Masterson for more than 10 years. So that was the first time actually that I came into contact with the effects of the nervous system, the power of soft touch. So applying all of this to Jajão, he turned into he's an amazing horse. He's super, super sensitive because of this high alertness. But if he feels safe, he's amazing. Now, last year, Jim Masterson who was on your podcast
Mm-hmm.
recently,
Mm-hmm.
was in Aquitana in Germany. And then I said, hey, Jim, well, I asked Vicky, who's like our go-to person for Europe, when he's in Germany, like that's 100 kilometers from the stable where I am, why not come to our stable and do a demo? So Jim came to the Netherlands, did a demo, and now I explained to him, this is what I learned about the nervous system. This is why the Masterson method works, because of the soft touch and he
Mm-hmm.
goes, that's interesting. The week after he was in the Netherlands, he continued to the UK for a Masterson Method conference where I was going as well. And they invited me to talk about this
Mm.
for the first time, like what I had learned about the nervous system and horses and trauma and why the Masterson Method works. And then afterwards, there's I don't know, there's 3, 4, 5 people coming to me, some of them in tears, saying,
Yeah.
now I understand why my horse this or why I do that. And I was like, wow, this apparently hits a chord or something.
Yes. Yes.
So, and 2 months later, I do a webinar, a free webinar. 800 people signed up organically, like no ads, whatever. I'm just sharing, it's free. And the response that I get from that is like overwhelming of like, wow, and everybody should know this. So I have all these videos. I go, would you be interested in, this material? And so I turned it into a course.
Yeah.
It has 4 parts. And then somebody said, you need to write a book about this. So I turned the course actually into a book. And
Wow.
that's what I have right now.
That's
So if
how
you
we arrived.
that's fast forward the past 3, 4 years,
Wow.
that basically everything I learned, I put it in a book.
Yeah. And also this sense of the hitting a chord, because I think, I mean, keeping it in the realm of horses, how many people find themselves with a horse that is dysregulated, that is, either, like you say, in sympathetic overload or a collapsed state, is not able to socially engage, and then goes like, really, there's this sense of like, what do I even do with this? Right. So the relief that those people must feel when they start to get a lens and a framework for,
Yes. Yeah.
I know I feel that way when I now view my horse's behavior and understand it through this space. The way that I train changes, the way that I interact with them, what I'm looking for completely shifts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
good what you say. There's so many, because when I talked about this with people, and I even signed up, there's an institute, a Polyvagal Institute. So I was looking for, has anybody looked into this? And then they said, yeah, we have somebody, and they connected me with someone. But she said, yes, we use horses for therapy with humans. I was like, no. I want it the other way around. I want to educate people to see the trauma in horses. I
Yes.
know horses are quote unquote used, or in helping people, and they are amazing in that. But I want to give back to horses. Horses have been my lifesavers when I was a kid. Like still they are.
Yep.
And I see so much frustration and misunderstanding in the horse world from miscommunication, from not understanding, like everything that the horse is often doing, what we label as misbehavior, is basically the horse asking, am I safe? Am
Mm.
I safe? And when we start to recognize that, yeah, it's what you say, the approach changes, the way we train changes. Yeah.
Completely. Because I've been so guilty of, how do I say it? Like taking things personally from my horses, I guess. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, and then like losing my temper or just getting frustrated. And this sense of the relief in me as well when was able to actually go, oh, like this is not personal in any way. first of all. It's not about me, really, other than the connection piece. But there was this like, there's been this shift to a much more harmonious relationship that I've noticed with myself and my girls with this lens. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to
And
chat a little bit, like the polyvagal theory, the ventral vagal system. So when we're looking at these, you know, polyvagal, ventral, and dorsal branches of the vagus nerve of the parasympathetic system, I think it's really important, and I'd love for you to speak more on this to understand, number one, what that ventral vagal system is and how it sort of shows up for horses and humans.
Mhm.
And then number two, if we can talk about how we support it showing up more or
Okay.
support it to be more healthy or robust in both of those nervous systems. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if I look back at my first course, the True Connection course, I
Mm-hmm.
already talk about sympathetic and parasympathetic. And that is what most people know. We have the
Yeah.
sympathetic nervous system, which is activation and fight flight, and we have the parasympathetic, which is called the rest and digest, and that's where we heal and recover. That's how I learned about
Yep.
it. And people thought it was like a light switch. When one is on, the other one is off. So they couldn't be both active. So Stephen Porges in the early 90s then discovered that the vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial nerve and runs down the neck into the organs, has two branches, the dorsal branch and the ventral branch. The dorsal is actually the oldest one. That's also connected to our oldest part of the brain, where like the reptiles, it's also called the reptile brain part, they only know basically to freeze.
Yep.
So then the mammal brain, which is the sympathetic part, which is connected to the sympathetic nervous system, you see it in horses. Instead of just freezing, they know how to run away. Their first priority is run. When they cannot run, then they will fight. Now, only when the prefrontal cortex was developed, we got this development also of the ventral vagal system, where we humans and horses basically as well, we thrive in community. We need support. We're not solitary beings. Like I like to be on my own, but we're social beings. Now, only when we feel safe is that part activated. So only when we feel safe, we're actually open to connect. It's the social engagement system and also open to learn. Now, what Stephen Porges also discovered, it's not an on-off switch. The ventral vagal system serves as, they call it a brake on the other two. So when we are in sympathetic, but with the ventral vagal brake, we can be active, but it's not danger. It's not, the fight-flight system is not activated. We're not in survival mode. So when we're playing, when we're training our horse, we need to be in a little bit sympathetic, but with the ventral brake on it. So I hear a lot of people, I hear very often say, you need to relax. Everything always needs to be cool. It's for me the starting point,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want to be in a relaxed state all the time. I want to work on my canter, not pirouettes, but I want to go for a trail ride and have fun and do some proper training as well. So you need the activation. You need a little bit of adrenaline to go there. The only thing is that you need to go back into the green zone. So the power of pause is essential. So what you see very often is somebody asks something of a horse. The horse doesn't understand. They ask again. They ask louder. And that's called trigger stacking. Then the horse goes into overdrive. They cannot learn anymore. They cannot hear you anymore. So the thing is, when we start to recognize when our horse goes into a little bit arousal and then more arousal, we need to recognize that shift. What I said about myself as well, when I recognize that I go into overdrive and I recognize it early enough, I can regulate myself. Now, horses can regulate themselves as well, but we can also help them with co-regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So now I start to ground myself. I start to breathe. I start to shake the tension out of my body. I start to radiate to my horse that it is safe. You start yawning.
I know. I just
That's
ran
how
away.
it works. But this is how it works. You start, when I started to do that, I was even on, like, you're, I don't know how many thousands of miles away. We co-regulate.
Yeah.
That's how that works. And the same goes for the dorsal system. We see horses in shutdown, and people say he's so calm, and then suddenly he exploded.
He's so well broke.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And when I see horses like that, oh my gosh, but the horse isn't calm. He's not there. Can you not see? There's no light. There's no spirit in the eyes anymore.
Yep.
So that means total shutdown.
Yeah.
When they are in dorsal, but with the ventral brake, now we are in our healing, grooming, mutual, togetherness place. So that's how the ventral part, like, has a brake on the sympathetic and the dorsal system. And we need actually to be able. I came up with a word, and I think it's totally brilliant. You have to become a nervous system navigator.
Mm-hmm.
Not relaxed all the time. You need to become a navigator. So you need to go up. You need to recognize when you are going too far up, and then you need to navigate yourself down. And then you can go into dorsal, like total recovery, deep sleep, and then you go up again. So to be able to do that, you become more resilient.
Yes.
So if you want your horse to become more resilient, you have to actually guide the horse through the different parts of the nervous system.
Well, one thing I notice with a lot of horses, I mean, I have so many ways I want to take this, but one thing I've noticed is that, horses escalate, and then it's an interesting thing, I think, with horses, that we sort of have to go a little against our grain, if that makes sense. So, like, I think the normal human response to a horse escalating would be escalation in our system. Like,
normally, yes,
fear, or
oh my God, what happened?
Whereas, interestingly enough, we have to, again, be those nervous system navigators who are like, okay, so I see you're escalating, and I'm going to actually become more of an anchor down in this more ventral, even dorsal space, so we can come back, sort of come back down and find this journey back down. Because I think it's quite easy for a lot of horses to go up, and then once they get there, there's not often the most easy pathway back into a state of settled safety. Does that make sense?
It depends on the horse.
Depends on the horse. Yes.
So, yeah, same with humans. Like, if
totally.
your nervous system is on a constant alert, it's hard to settle down. Basically, you don't even know anymore how to settle down. So there's horses also that are constantly on high alert. Other horses, like my Saini, he's like, he's grounded.
Totally. And you're like, please.
He's like, they call him lazy. I say, no. He's a low an energy saver. He's
an energy conserver. Absolutely.
Energy conserver, because when something happens, he'll go. You know what I mean? So he's not easily, blown off his hoops. Jajão in the beginning, it was like, we spooked at everything.
Yeah.
But he has learned now to settle himself. And I basically, I have rewired my own brain. So I have so often consciously, when a horse spooks, I call it, I have my emergency routine.
Mm-hmm.
I practice so often in a safe state so that my nervous system has like rewired itself. And now when my horse spooks, automatically I go, I ground, I make sound, I shake myself, and I become the safe spot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an instant. I don't even, my heartbeat doesn't even go up anymore when my horse speaks. But that means you need to practice this many, many times in a safe environment so that your nervous system has a new option when something scary or spooky happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's no small thing. I mean, as a person that has anxiety, which I think many of us do. I mean, we all have anxiety, but when we're prone towards that state of kind of what I call the buzz, it can be a very challenging process to learn to regulate ourselves, particularly when there is something that is actually presenting to our system as this could possibly be dangerous for us. Can you share a little bit around your tools for human regulation? Because I know at the end of the day, this is a huge part of the puzzle, is how can we become more kind of those nervous system masters, those really navigating our own regulation patterns and understanding and befriending our own nervous system. So what are some of the things that you've used along your way, or tools that you've found?
What I found is that what happened as a child when I wasn't feeling safe, I went into my head. And I think that's the solution that a lot of people have. So I kind of disconnected from my body.
Yeah.
That was the top part. I was a very smart kid. So I got good grades. That's where I got my recognition. So that was my safe place. So I didn't feel my body anymore. So I think a lot of people have lost the connection to their body, and they don't communicate with their body. So their intuition is gone because we don't feel the signals anymore. So once I started to do, like, I did all kinds of therapies, but once I started doing body related therapies, because trauma is not in your cognitive part, it's in your body, and you need to access it through your body. So I did things like TRE, tension release exercises, which is a lot about shaking. Now, animals know this. When a horse or a dog is afraid and runs away, afterwards they go like, oh, and what do we do? I'm fine. Yeah, of course I'm fine. And we store the residue of that burst in our body. We don't release it. So shaking, I do that in my clinics in Australia. They called it the Lucie shake. Did you do the Lucie shake today? So I start bouncing, then making sound. The vagus nerve is also attached to your humming, singing. The jaw, like in the Masterson method, you have this TMJ release, and I'm like, you should be able to do that in humans as well. So first I had to locate it, and so I have some jaw release exercises. Now, there's so many, if you Google it, so many ways to release tension, but I came up with like 10 strategies that are short. You can do them standing, so you can do them in the pasture with your horse, but also standing in line when you do your shopping. So, and you don't need any props. You don't need a yoga mat, whatever. And they're very quick. I call them like to drop from your head into the body. Now, the first thing that's actually a step 0, this is all in the book, by the way, with illustration, with amazing illustrations. The first part is that you need to become the observer of yourself. You need to basically, I used to say like a helicopter, now I say like a drone. You need to be a drone flying over yourself, observing yourself without judgment. Without judgment, that's important. You need to observe what is happening in my body. So I have a check-in method, which I came up with it when I was walking along the river. And that is like you use your fingers to do like an external check-in, like what do I see, what do I hear, what do I feel from the
Yeah.
external, the wind in my face. And then I do an internal check-in. What do I feel physically? Like, am I hungry? Is there any pain? What do I feel emotionally? Like, what state am I in? And what are my thoughts? So if I do this 1, 2, 3 external, 1, 2, 3 internal, now I'm totally aware of the influence of the outside world and how my body is responding to it. Then I can start consciously, oh, I feel my heartbeat going up because I see this or I hear that. What can I do now? So there's 10 strategies, and then I encourage people to try them all and then select 3 or 4 that are your favorite, that you practice on a daily basis, and they become your emergency routine.
Mm.
So then you have rewired your brain or your nervous system to automatically navigate or regulate itself back into ventral vagal state or sympathetic safe state. When you feel your heartbeat go up. So you need to, and that's why that window of tolerance, when I was doing my therapy and I learned that and I started drawing my own window of tolerance with all the little signals to recognize when you do your check-in, now I recognize, oh gosh, I talk very fast. I didn't sleep well.
You start
My
forgetting
cough is
things.
back, like I'm forgetting things, exactly.
Yep.
Hey, I recognize the signals. Now where's my agenda? I have to skip this, cancel that.
Totally.
Purposefully help myself, my environment, my daily routine to help myself back into the safe spot, because I know I've been there twice.
Yeah.
That when
not
I
good.
go overboard, it's not good.
No.
It's not good.
And it's a huge recovery time, right? Like it's
recovery. It's more than a year.
Oh yeah, completely. My signs are I start forgetting names. I can't string together sentences.
Yep.
I start having panic attacks.
Well, then you're already there. Then that's not
Exactly.
that's
By
not
that point, or not necessarily full panic attacks, but just I can't cope when something changes in my environment. And I'm like, okay, even that little like, I'm like, all right, yeah, we need to back away from this. And like you said, yeah, look at your agenda, take things off, build in time for rest and relaxation. Yeah, yeah, because it's just never worth it. Yeah.
And when I have this gas heating,
Yeah.
which gives this big pang, like sometimes.
Right.
And when I realized that there was a pang and my heartbeat didn't go up, I was like, wow, I really have recovered. I really
Yep.
have a regulated nervous system, because 4 or 5 years ago, when I had an SMS coming in, my nervous system went on alert. And now there's this big bang, even when I'm meditating, and the big bang can happen and nothing happens in my body.
Amazing. Amazing.
So that was really like, wow, it's really, it has really shifted with like all the quote unquote work that I've been doing over the past years.
Incredible. One of my faves that I'll drop in here too for regulation is actually Soundwork.
Yep.
So like binaural beats and the Safe and Sound protocol from Stephen Porges, which is a basically exercising the vestibular system to tonify the vagus nerve. I find it so great. It's such a great hack because it's like you can sit and meditate or breathe or be in the sun in the backyard and listen and be listening to this music. And I find it very, very supportive. So yeah, so that's another one that I've brought into my routine. Yeah, awesome. So I wanted to chat a little bit because I did see I was sharing earlier this video series that you did with Jajão around you were going out on the trails, on the roads, and you were working together to create safety. So I know that this is a big this is a really common thing. So, we're taking our horse out and there's stimulus and there's trigger stacking. And what do? Oftentimes we fall back into our old training, which is a lot of the times like, we're going to get by this and we're just doing it.
Don't get off your horse, because then he wins.
Exactly. Don't get off your horse.
Yeah.
You give an inch, they take a mile. Like, anyways, so I wanted to ask you to share a little bit about your process in this place, because I think that this is a spot that so many of us as equestrians, especially if we ride, find ourselves in. Is, yes, we're out on our horse. There is trigger stacking of various things, and we're then in this space of a very escalated horse that doesn't want to move past, a particular thing. Yeah.
I was like, when I started with Jajão, of course, I started with walks. I didn't ride him. For the first months, I did groundwork. But walking with your horse, I think, is one of the best ways to get a better relationship, but also to help the horse become a nervous system navigator, because you encounter so many things. So in the beginning, it was every 2-3 meters, he would go like, what's this? What's that?
The snort.
And the snort, that was the snort, yeah. So he was snorting, and then he was backing up, and he was like, whoa. Now I can ride him. We go for trail rides. And then we had this instance when there was a big truck on the side of the road. And he stopped. So I was like, okay. And I took my camera. So I took my camera and I started talking what was happening. So, okay, you see a truck so you see me filming between the ears of Jajão. There's this big truck, and you could see his head going up and down and looking away. Like, looking away is like trying to calm himself, and backing up was trying to make the distance a bit bigger. And so I said something like, what do you think I'm going to do next?
Yeah.
So people were responding to that. Like, some of them said, well, you probably will breathe, or you will get off. There were also people saying, well, the horse needs to listen and you have to get him past that. So I broke the video. The total was, I think, about 12 minutes. So I broke it up in 3 1-minute videos. So at some point, I first tried to breathe. So I breathe, and then when he takes a deep sigh, or when I feel he's regulating again, which can be snorting or the lick and chew or any of the signals, then I would ask again, can you go forward? He would take 2 or 3 steps, and then he would stop again, and I would repeat the process. At some point I thought, let's get off. And now I do the same thing from the ground, but now he's a little bit more confident, because then I make sure I am between him and the scary thing. So I place myself between the truck and him. And since by now he trusts me, it was easier for him to follow me. And then when we are next to the truck, I breathe, I ground myself, I give him time. And now he starts to explore. So he takes a step closer to the truck was parked, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So people would say, what if the truck would start moving? Well, then I would have taken a different approach. I probably would have turned around and found a safer spot where, because it was too narrow otherwise, but the truck was parked. So now he reaches out, he's snorting, but at some point he even touches the truck. And I praise him. I say, you're amazing. Thank you. Let's go. And he very quietly passed the truck. And then I walked home. And the whole thing was like 10, 12 minutes. People said like, whoa, that was a long time. I'm like, 10, 12 minutes is nothing, because the next time something like this happens, it's going to take me 5 minutes. And then the third time, he's probably just going to walk past this, because I did not escalate anything. I did not add anything to the trigger. Whereas if I would have pushed him, now there would have been trigger stacking. Now my pushing and my you should go is added to the truck. So the next time he sees a truck, all that is connected to that situation.
Yeah.
And now I made it into, it's actually not that bad. Take the time it takes. Take the time to regulate ourselves. And that's how we do it. So I try from the saddle. If not, I decide to dismount, because on the ground, I feel I can help him better to get between him and whatever scares him.
Exactly. Exactly. Diva, my mares, can be quite cautious. And I
Mhm.
found that to be so huge for her to get over whatever it is, my pride. I don't know what it is that keeps us up there. You know what I mean? And be able and get off for her and take the time to put myself in between her and the dangerous thing. There's just so much connection that's built in that,
Yep.
just that one action,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Now
Like,
they
I've
start
got
to.
you. I'm going to go in between this monster for you.
I'm on the lookout. Like yeah, you can trust me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. One of the other things I noticed with that video series, Lucie, was you waited. So you paused until you saw a sign of regulation and a sign of sort of a de-escalation. I think for many of us, myself included, the patience piece sort of maybe prevents us from actually pausing long enough to get to that spot. Do you know what I'm saying?
I will read to you my how I dedicated the book. I dedicate this book to everyone who loves horses and to all the horses that deserve to be loved, especially to my horse Jajão, who taught me the real meaning of patience.
Mhm.
So absolutely, you're absolutely right. It's and actually that I learned already in 2012 when I started the Masterson method, because Jim would always say, now let's step back and see what the horse has to say.
Mhm.
So, and then he also said, and throw away the clock.
And throw away the clock.
So that's when that basically starting the Masterson method changed the way I train like 12 years ago. Because now I start to see these little signals. And now I wait until I see one of the release signals, knowing that my horse is self-regulating again and in the green zone. So now he's ready for the next step. So I totally believe also in the combination of training and body work.
Yes.
So when I see my horse is a little bit aroused, I give him a break. I could even put my hand softly on the horse and see if I can help with co-regulation. Or when my horse has difficulty with the lateral flexion of the pole, I do a little wiggle wiggle. So it's training and body work go hand in hand. They both aim for the same, like the flexibility, the freedom of movement, the relaxation.
Absolutely. The health. Yeah. I have to say I don't treat a lot of horses anymore outside of my girls, but man, am I so appreciative to have my bodywork background.
I don't go around treating horses as well. Maybe
Yeah.
sometimes students where I see, well, let's do a little wiggle
Yep.
here. But I do a little bit every single day.
Yep.
Every time I clean the feet, I do a little scapula drop. Like
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
do a shoulder release. So I
Totally.
do a few little things every day. I don't often do very full body sessions, but it's so helpful. Which is Yao, who has like his left foot is always under his body and his right shoulder is more free. He only had a right canter. In Portugal, they only do right canters when they train for bullfighting. Like so, I do a scapula drop backward with the right foot and a scapula drop forward with the left foot to create more shoulder freedom. So once you know how to apply the body work, it's so cool that you can, now I use this one in this way and that wiggle wiggle in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And because the fascial system is so entwined with the nervous system, all of a sudden we're working both spaces. You know, what I found with body work is it's this incredible way into the rewiring of the nervous system.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it
Yeah.
kind of brings us back around, as well as when we look at, I had a podcast a while back with my friend Carmen Spagnola, and she talks about contact nutrition a lot. And one of the things in contact nutrition is safe touch,
Okay.
right? So this sense of the nervous system responds to touch that is connective and attuned, and then can settle settle into those spaces. So
It's
yeah.
with the soft touch, it's when you start to like understand the nervous system, it's so basically simple, because if you have a soft touch, there is a signal going to the brain via the sensory nerves, which bring all the senses, the sensations of the body information to the brain, that it is safe. Now there is a signal going through the motor nerves back to that area. It's okay to relax. Whereas if you poke or whatever, the signal that goes to the brain is like, oh, not safe. Now there's a signal going back saying, contract, guard yourself, brace yourself. That's why with Masters and Method, you always stay under the brace, because that's when you can access that safe part. And
Mm.
signals go like, oh, you see this unwinding of the fascia and the big releases.
It's beautiful. And when you're working with a horse like Jajão, who would have, you talked earlier about his scars from his previous life. How have you found, number one, that how have those sort of impacted him physically, but also emotionally? And with the work that you do, have you seen not just the body work, but also, the type of training and the lens of the nervous system? Have you seen any changes in those scars?
The scars are still there, but I can
Yeah.
touch them.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't touch that area, but now it's just I can touch it. And we didn't have a left canter. Now we have a left canter. I mean, he still
Amazing.
preferred the right, but now we have a left canter as well. And he's, as I said, he's amazing in his connection now, especially on the ground. In the beginning, the first time I rode him, because he was ridden, I bought a 7-year-old horse. So I took a month approximately to let him acclimatize and walk. And then I thought, well, let's try. He seems okay. And he just shut up. Like, and it was filmed by it was
I saw some of it and I was like, whoa.
it was in the indoor arena. They have a camera almost, and he would just go off. And the only thing I could think of, because I fell off my other horse 1 or 2 years prior to that and had a herniated disc, I was like, I just cannot fall off. So just sit, just sit, just sit. And I kind of brought him on a circle until he was done. And he was trembling and sweating, and me as well. I was trembling, I was shaking, and I just said, this was a bit too soon, right? I'm getting off now.
Oh.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, this was way too early. It was also like, I did not expect that. And that's when I completely restarted. Like, I think I think half a year I didn't ride him. We went for walks. I did body work with him, little touches, and it was all about connection and communication. And I did a lot of liberty work, just observation. So liberty for me is not what a lot of people say. The horse has to stick with me all the time. Liberty for me is observation, like what can I approach my horse? What happens if I move 2 steps closer? Oh, he looks away. What if I now step back? Now his head comes down again. He would stand at the other end of the arena, and I would just tell him, it's okay, I have time, you're safe. Like, I will not ever push you through something you're not ready for. And then at some point, he didn't hide in the corner anymore. I could help him through the corner. So I have all these things on video where you can really see him go through all the stages of the nervous system. And then at some point, he starts to see me as his safe place. And then I started riding him again, but then he was physically not balanced. He was completely on the forehand. I have videos of that as well. He started sometimes to do a kind of passage-like movement, which was totally stressed. And then somebody says, oh, wow, that's so cool. I said, no, this is not cool. I want him to relax. So I have him now almost 3 years. I can now go for a relaxed trot. I'm not thinking about collection or piaffe ever with him. He's not ready for that.
Yeah.
I know once he is safe enough to get a little bit of ta-da, and he still feels safe, he'll be an amazing horse. But we're not there. Like,
yeah. Can
Still,
I rewind back to, so you get on, there's this period of time where you just do other things. What were you doing? I mean, yes, you were doing Liberty and groundwork and all these things. Was there anything specific that you were doing to help prepare him for under saddle work? Because that can be very specific for the nervous system. So like highly kind of connective activity potentially, and it's very different for them.
on the ground, I prepare everything on the ground. So
Yep.
on the ground, it's first connecting to breathing. Now, I have for the past years always added a neck rope to my training. So I will like, oof, breathe out. Can you stop with me? If not, because I didn't want to touch his head.
Yeah.
He was so sensitive around the head. But then I did a little tuck on the neck rope. Oof, I breathe out. Can we hold? If not, I do a little tuck on the neck rope. So he would feel it at the base of his neck. When I would mount him, also, I could not touch his head. But now I breathe out and I just have a little tuck on the neck rope and he stops. I mean, I can stop him on a breath. So the breathing is so important. Connect my horse to my breathing, teach that on the ground, translate it to riding. Then when I have that connection and communication, then I start training strength and flexibility, because when a horse is not balanced, they want to run. So an unbalanced horse is not a safe horse. So then I start to do lateral work. I teach him shoulder in, haunches in, half pass, pirouette, all on the ground. Now when I ride him, I can feel when I lose the haunches or I lose the shoulder, and I have a way to get him vertically balanced under me again.
Yep.
So it's first mentally connection on the ground, translate to riding, and then the physical part on the ground, and then to riding.
Well, and I know for you, you work with also, in the groundwork, starting to apply the leg aids with the hand to translate that, like, a little tickle at the girth or these sorts of things where it's like, okay, yeah, we're just going to start to prepare your nervous system for these particular cues and what they mean, essentially, right?
The time, like when a horse looks away, people would bring the horse back on the head. But if I tickle you in the side, you automatically will bend around it. So when I do groundwork and I work on shoulder position, I will touch the girth area with my hand and say, can you bend around it? So when I ride and I tickle with my lower leg, he knows to bend around my inside leg. So it's both the nervous system that is then not like, what on earth is happening there? But also the physical body that gets wired for very supple cues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
then it's so much fun.
And that, yeah, it's way, and they feel happier in their body. I think
absolutely,
that's the piece that I see is they're like, oh, I can do these things. I can feel good in my system moving, and it becomes more fun, right?
That's the main thing. When I started with my first online course, I asked people who did my clinics, like, what would you want then in an online course? Because it was in Australia where they first asked. So I thought, well, maybe they want to do the lateral work. And everybody said, I want to have a connection with my horse like you have it. Your horses want to be with you. My horse stays with me because he or she is well educated. But when I turn her loose, they leave. And your horses seem to want to be with you. And the other thing was fun. You always seem to have fun. And that's what I want to do also with the book and with the courses. I want to bring fun and ease and harmony back into the lives of people and horses, because especially with people who are getting a bit older, they say, I'm not confident anymore. I'm afraid to fall off. I'm tensed. And that's when they got more easily frustrated. And suddenly when people came for lessons, it was always, my horse doesn't want to do this. My horse doesn't want to do that. They always focused on all the things they couldn't do. And then my first question was like, why did you buy this horse? What is really cool about this horse? And then they suddenly, because this or that. And it totally shifts the energy. And now suddenly the thing did work, because their energy towards the horse was suddenly different. That's why this getting in a heart coherent space is also like radiating gratitude, radiating love. Every day I tell them, did I tell you today how amazing you are? You are just so gorgeous. You're so amazing. I love you. And they
Yeah,
respond to that.
because you hear so often. I mean, I fall into this trap as well. Well, people get into a place of judgment or, I just got a pony. She's like a Shetland miniature horse. So she's 37 inches. And she's a pony and she's been teaching a bit me about poniness. And I've been finding my languaging, I really have to watch it because there's such a stigma around ponies and their behavior and how they do things, right? So, the vet came out and was like, oh, yeah, ponies, are naughty and this and that. And I was like, okay, I have to be really, really aware
Yeah,
of
language.
my dialogue around and judgment around her and her behaviors. And that was really like that's been a big learning for me because yeah, we don't often just step into this place of like, oh my gosh, you're just like the most amazing and I just love you so, like that's so important to get to because like why else are we here, really? You know? Yeah. Yeah. I love
I
that
love being in that space. Like when I was filming like these self-regulating exercises, I
yep.
filmed actually in the field.
Mm.
And like every once in a while, you see one of my horses checking in with me and Saini coming behind me, putting his head on my shoulder, and then he goes off grazing again. They love to be in that space. I have this one video where like a very short video on Instagram, it had 1.5 million views within a couple of weeks where I just regulate myself and he turns like to be with me.
He's like, that feels good.
Yeah. And that's what people want. It's not like there's still people, of course, and there's nothing wrong with competition when it is from a connected place. I don't ride competition. I choose not to because I just see what it does to people. And I
Yeah.
think it will kind of bring something out in me as well, because then I might want to win or something. So I choose not to do competition. But in the academic art of writing, we have different tests. So
Yes.
I do like to have something to work towards. Like tomorrow, I go to Germany for a weekend with Marius Schneider. Um, so yes, I do want a certain thing but I don't need to do it tomorrow. It can be next year. Like I don't have a schedule, or I do have a big, far away goal, like
Yes.
something to work towards. So
Oh,
that's fun.
that's great. I yeah, I remember the shift when with my mare Diva because I started getting too serious, in
Yeah.
our writing. As I think many of us do, whether we realize it or not. And it just came to this place. She told me, she's like, this needs to be fun for both of us, or why are we doing it? That was like really the message that I got. And from that point on, I prioritized play and fun and connection. I was like, I would check in the middle of our ride. Is this fun for you? Like, are you enjoying this?
Yeah.
Because she liked the technical stuff and it was interesting for her and challenging. But I really wanted to know that was what she wanted. So yeah, I just love that sense of your boys being like, oh, mom, they just drawn to that care, drawn to that playful, like we're gonna have fun when we go hang out with
Yeah,
our
because they also
person.
know it, so they can leave. Like
Yep.
I go into the pasture, people don't understand. I go into the pasture, I invite my horse to walk around me, do a little bit of collection, 1, 2 minutes. I said, thank you. And then I walk off to the other horse. And sometimes he says, I don't feel like it today. And he gives me his butt.
Yeah,
So then he needs a butt scratch. Like I
totally.
filmed
Butt scratches are
it.
very important.
And so, and I listen. That's another thing. The more you listen, the more they will speak. The more
Mm.
they will show you what they need and what they want.
Beautiful. I think that's a really great place to start to close here today because I think that listening has been sort of a theme that's run within the nervous system and with, the more that we listen to ourselves, to our nervous system, to our horse's nervous system, yeah, that's the path. Hmm. Beautiful. Thanks, Lucie. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Can you share a little, Lucie, about how people get in touch with you and also when your new book is coming out?
Well, hopefully the book will be out when the podcast goes live.
Yes, hopefully.
So the planning is September.
Okay, perfect.
And so then it will be, the English version will be on Amazon. And now I'm working on the Dutch translation because Dutch people prefer to read it in Dutch.
Totally.
And I just did a complete redo of my website, which is my name, lucieklassen.com, where you can find basically everything that I offer. So
Amazing.
after the whole, I traveled all over the world to teach clinics. And then we had, of course, in 2020 that the world shut down. And that's when I
Yes.
started doing online courses. And after that True Connection that people wanted, that course, now they said, like, how do I build strength and flexibility? So every time I build a new course, I did that based on the requests of the people who already followed courses. So now it's a whole journey that I've built over the last 4 years.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Cool.
All right. So keep your eyes out, everybody, for Lucie's book, Wired for Connection. And it's a goodie. So definitely grab yourself a copy. And yeah, love this conversation. I've learned so much, Lucie. Really, really appreciate you being here today.
Well, thanks a lot. It was fun talking to you again.
Absolutely. Always great to chat with you. Aw, thanks everybody for listening in, and we'll chat with you all very, very soon. Bye for now.